GM. 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 So, a couple of things I want to talk about. First, Bitcoin. So, today's Sunday, 14th. I'll do weekly outlook later. I'll go much more in depth. So, just a quick video to talk about my latest thoughts. It's Sunday, right? We just had Saturday. Price went nowhere. My thoughts from yesterday's daily levels haven't changed much, obviously, because nothing has happened. Tomorrow is a public holiday in the US. I think it's a partial market holiday, meaning I think futures are open. So the CME futures are open, I believe. CME futures holidays. I don't think they're closed for MLK Day. It's 14th, 16th of January. Okay. So they will be. Holiday schedule. Bum, 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 bum. Equities. Crypto. Opens on Tuesday. Yeah, so it is closed on Monday. New York Stock Exchange closed Monday. Yeah, so basically they're seems like all the markets are closed tomorrow. The markets that matter for us. So tomorrow is essentially like a weekend for crypto. An extended weekend. And there's two Chainlink tokenization RWA. These are just the most obvious two coins to trade, whatever you want to see here. Bum, 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 bum. Chainlink, real world assets, tokenization, putting stuff on the blockchain. So as you've seen, I'm sure you've seen it by now, but I'll play it so you can see it. Larry Fink, tokenization.
We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we can customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stocks. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things. If we know every moment who is the owner of that stock, and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares.
Is this the end of mutual funds?
I think, well, a lot of people, it's a wrapper. It's not the end of it, but I would say the dominant form of bringing products going forward will be in the form of ETFs.
There you go. ETFs. GM. Everything is going to be tokenized. He's literally telling you what's going to happen in the world. Right? Doesn't matter whether you like it or not. But everything's going to be tokenized. Everything's going to be an ETF. Is it the end of mutual funds? Which is quite interesting too, because I believe mutual funds are predominantly Vanguard, if I am correct. Biggest mutual fund in the world. Fidelity Contra Fund. Top 5. Yeah. Vanguard, Fidelity, Vanguard. Ha! Funny, right? So BlackRock are going to destroy the mutual fund industry. You could see that by how he answered, right? Let me go back to that. whenever someone's like, I've obviously done a lot of lots of fucking presentation, lots of videos, lots of streams. But before that, I spent a lifetime, not a lifetime, several years in sales. Same thing. When you ask somebody a question and they stutter and stumble, it means you're right. Now, it either means they don't know what they're talking about, and I'm pretty sure Larry Fink knows what he's talking about, so he knows the answer. If you stutter and stumble, it means the interviewer has just asked me something that I do not want to answer because he's correct.
Every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about
wait, you
all
see
the
how
costs of settling bonds
stutters.
and stocks. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe if you want to talk about like voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock, and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares.
Is this the end of mutual funds?
I think, well, a lot of people, it's a wrapper. It's not the end of it, but I would.
So, it's the end of mutual funds. And so, even though like BlackRock and Fidelity and Vanguard, they all own each other. Obviously, BlackRock is BlackRock, right? Of course, they all own shares in each other. They're all publicly listed companies. But everyone thinks they're the same company. They're not. They're competitors. At the end of the day, you got BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street, Vanguard, the top four. And BlackRock have just made a major move and are going to tokenize everything, turn into an ETF, and they are the ETF kings. 576 to 1 is their ETF success ratio of getting them approved. BlackRock are the big dogs. iShares is the biggest ETF brand in the world. iShares is BlackRock. This is what's happening. So, now, there's the narrative. Narrative set. I think it's really easy for the next whatever amount of time we have. Few thoughts. Bitcoin is going to be going nowhere. Super low volatile for the next several weeks. That's going to give room for shitcoins to run. Ethereum is fucking hyper obvious because they have Ethereum ETF lined up. He's out shilling Ethereum already. And everyone's going to assume that this tokenization is going to occur on Ethereum. I'll come back to that later. But that's what you need to know. Here's the thing, at least how I trade, and it served me well, and this is basically how markets work in every form, narratives. Don't get into the weeds of, oh, but BlackRock are not actually going to use Ethereum, they're going to build their own BlackRock chain. Of course they are. But there is no BlackRock chain. Why do you think people buy Marathon, Riot, MicroStrategy, Galaxy Digital, Coin? Why do you think people in TradFi were buying crypto-related stocks so heavily this year? Last year. September, October, November, December, going into January. Because they wanted to trade the ETF. They wanted to position for the ETF, but there was no ETF. Whenever there is whenever there's something that is coming and there is no asset already for it, you look for a proxy. A proxy is a substitute that performs or replaces the thing that you are waiting on or anticipating. BlackRock, yes, I have no doubt BlackRock will have their own chain. JP Morgan already has their own chain. We'll talk about that in a second. Or is fucking around with Avalanche and Ethereum. And so, eventually they will. But until then, we will gamble on what exists. And the things that exist are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then, other protocols within those or chains. So, Bitcoin's obvious. Bitcoin's already done. Bitcoin's played out. I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to zero, but there's also a tendency of ETFs. So now there's 11 ETFs and all of TradFi that can buy Bitcoin, and they're surely going to accumulate. Bitcoin will go to all-time highs this year, next year, no doubt. But ETFs reduce volatility because it's a different type of buyer now. There's now program buyers who are going to be buying and selling based off of their funds, right? The advisors getting their customers to allocate some of this into their portfolio. So, in simple sense, anytime Bitcoin goes down, they're going to buy. Anytime it goes up, they're going to sell. If it goes up or down too much, they will buy or sell. That's how they're doing. They're not here to trade the bull market. They're not here to make 100x gains. They're here to invest for their customers, and the way they will invest is they will rebalance their portfolio. So if it's particularly oversold, they will start to buy. If it's particularly overbought, they will start to sell. Already on the low time frames, Bitcoin is getting oversold, where it went from 49 down to 40, or 41, bounced back up to about 43. I would expect the volatility to really decrease as there's kind of a battle between buyers and sellers that cancels each other out. If that's right, and Bitcoin stays between, let's say, 44 and 38, right? So it might seem like a wide range, but even if it went to 38, which I don't think it will yet, but it could. But even if it just went like this, right? And say maybe it's a little bit wider, we'd kind of drift along and it just stays like that. I don't know, fucking that's not even right. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Right? That's like, this is the most bearish scenario I can see for Bitcoin. Okay, well, obviously there's a fucking, yeah, we can do that. Okay, that's possible, but I don't think that'll happen. I think it's going to be a slow sell-off where bounces are absorbed, sell-offs are also absorbed, price just loses volatility, goes sideways, because Bitcoin is inherently valuable. Bitcoin is worth at least 40k, minimum. People are forgetting all the money printing that went on, the halving coming up, the current liquidity injection. This is the other thing. People calling for 30k, 20k, 10k. They're forgetting that global liquidity is still rising. The central banks and the governments are still stimulating the economies. So forget ETFs for a second. Bitcoin will still go up in that environment. But because of the ETFs, you're going to have some dampening as people like Grayscale. And by the way, it's not Grayscale. It's not Digital Currency Group themselves. It's the holders who were underwater on their Grayscale trade for years that might want to get out. FTX holds Grayscale share, and the FTX estate has to sell a bunch, which I'll talk about on Weekly Outlook. Now, so if Bitcoin goes low volatile, ETH BTC continues to strengthen. It's reclaimed its 200-day moving average here with a nice strong rally off the lows. This is by far the biggest show of strength we've seen since the merge. It's a carbon copy of it, and I think it's going to produce an equal, if not greater, impulse to where we just see it just relentlessly grind up for the rest of the first half of the year. So until, whatever, summer. There's several catalysts around this, and I'll talk about the ETH catalysts, the ETH bull case, not just for the next few weeks, but for the next few months in Weekly Outlook. And I think I'll also talk about the way I'm going to play the next few months in terms of my risk approach. Because everyone thinks, a lot of times when they talk about, oh, ETH is going to outperform, people think that, well, I should just YOLO and get long ETH USD. That's not the case. I think ETH BTC is the best trade for the next 6 months. But if you take that actual trade, you can do it on Bybit, Binance, you can do it on all the exchanges. You go to ETH BTC, right? And you essentially sell your Bitcoin for ETH. And you denominate it in crypto, not in dollars. You will outperform. But if they both go down in dollar terms, ETH BTC can still go up. If Bitcoin drops to 38, but ETH only drops to 2,300, ETH BTC will hold strong. And then when they rally again, Bitcoin goes from 38 to 42, Ethereum will probably go to 27 or 3,000. That's how ETH BTC is going to outperform. It doesn't mean you can just go max long in dollar terms and make money. I do think that the next few weeks, strong coins will do well in dollar terms, US dollar terms. Ones that have been cooling off, and again, I think Weekly Outlook, I'll cover that. Alts cooling off and the best narratives for this upcoming rally. So keep an eye on that. There'll be 5 p.m. UTC. Get onto that stream. But you know, it's really obvious here. If you want to research some things in the meantime, you want to look at this. JP Morgan and Avalanche. So, Onyx by JP Morgan, Apollo Global announced collaborative effort. Essentially, it's going to be about tokenization, right? And they're doing it with an avalanche evergreen subnet, right? And what does that mean? It means that JP Morgan are testing tokenized assets on Avalanche. RWAs, real world assets, right? So Avalanche will catch a bid. Chainlink will catch a bid. Because Chainlink, what Chainlink does, if you want to research again, which I'll cover as well, but Chainlink CCIP, this is like the whole point of Chainlink, right? Chainlink is cross-chain, tokenization, and real world. People talk about RWA, real world assets, which I am not super bullish on for the whole cycle in terms of shitcoins. If you want the best RWA bet, it's fucking Chainlink. Because look, like even discover how ANZ Bank, so an Australian bank, like again, in the real world, this is not a crypto company. This is a literal fucking financial institution. Successfully demonstrated cross-chain tokenized asset settlement with Chainlink CCIP. Boom. Whether you like it or not, whether you think that crypto and blah, 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 none of that shit matters. This is staring you in the face. So I look at Link, and I am getting long Link. I'm definitely going to get long Link. And I'll talk in Trade of the Day about my new portfolio. I'm going to move things around a little bit. Because I want to take... I don't think it's a time to take a lot of risk, but it is a time to be fully exposed spot. And I think you just need to shift your holdings around a little bit. So with Link, it's had a run up. It topped in November over here. These false breakouts don't count as continuation. They're literally false breakouts. So it's had two false breakouts. It's topped out. It's ran all the way down. It's swept out all this liquidity below and is reversed back inside. It had one, it filled the wick. Two, it's got back above. And again, I don't know. It's not going to go whoosh straight off to the moon. Maybe it will. But it's done everything you'd want to see it do for a strong trending asset. Back down, 200-day moving average. Tried to lose it, held back above it, touched the weekly bands, consolidated, came right back down to this low, previous low. So Chainlink has now broken its bottoming range, flipped into this range, and that opens up everything above. How high will it go? I don't know, but Chainlink is one of the better bets for the next few weeks, in my opinion, especially with this tokenization narrative. So Ethereum, Link, Avalanche, I'm not going to hold Avalanche because I think it's a few weeks behind, right? So Chainlink has cooled off. It's important, guys. Nothing matters more than cause and effect. So once you have this big run up, you have to have time to cool off. Link had that. Link topped out in November. AVAX only topped out like 2 weeks ago. So it's behind Link. And it's ran more recently. So I don't know if AVAX is the best bet here. It'll probably catch a bid with some tokenization stuff, but I would expect, if AVAX does rally up, it false breakouts, comes back in, maybe another false breakout again, and then runs later on. It seems to me like after such a big run, I mean, it's gone 5x off the lows, so it probably needs some time. And it rallied up for 2 months. Right, so when it rallies for 2 months, it's unlikely to just go again. Like even if it went 2 months again, that would be over here. Remember, the trend and then the consolidation. The consolidation is typically longer than the trend. It usually spends more time in consolidation than it does in trend. Now it can be an upwards type of consolidation like this, where all of this wasn't like, here's your clean trend, right? Here's your clean trend. So it trended up from the lows up into here for 35 days. It then chopped upwards and sideways for 73 days. So it went higher, right? But it was false breakout, false breakout, false breakout, chop, 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 chop. Then, boom, clean trend again. Here, broke out, clean trend for just 2 weeks, and then it was done. So something similar occurring here? Possibly. You might see the same kind of path where it just keeps, and this is something that Ethereum has done in the past quite a lot, where it's up, false breakout, up, false breakout, sideways, up, and then it goes. And even though this is all messy, and even though it's going up and up and up, it's actually still a big consolidation. There's your clean trend, there's your consolidation, there's your next clean trend. So keep an eye on that for AVAX. And then as for Link, so Link, same thing, except Link has had its consolidation sideways, which is nice to see. Let's say from these lows, it rallied up for about 60 days. It's now 60 days in, so it's had its trend, 60 days, it's had its consolidation, 60 days, it's ready to go again. Now, even if it's going to take longer, that's fine. It'll go up, it'll come down, it'll go up, it'll come down. But it's still, I just don't see how Link goes anywhere other than up and to the right over the next little bit of time until it reaches some real significant high time frame resistance, which would be like, for me, all the way up there. So I think Link to $30 is a decent target. I don't know what it does after that. The way I'm looking at it right now, you've got all the hype around real world assets now with Larry Fink saying that, and you've got the tokenization narrative. I don't think Ethereum, Link, I don't think any of those end up being what they use. I think they're fucking around. They're going to test on those things until they build their own. So can Link run really hard for the next few months and have a nice markup? Yeah. And then does BlackRock come out in June or July saying, we're building our own chain? And then Link goes down and ETH goes down and fucking whatever. Or not ETH, but ETH will move on to ETF narratives, but Avalanche, all that kind of stuff. Yes. So I'm not saying these things are going to be used by BlackRock. And I am also saying that doesn't matter for the narrative. So I think that is now your most clear narrative that we have moving forward. It's a combination of ETH and real world assets, because Link is also an ETH beta. It historically acts like an ETH beta token. Link was the leader of the first rally up, along with Injective and Solana, and now it's cooling off sideways. So that's quite a good setup for me. So that's it, GM. Trade of the day, I'll do a portfolio update, and then we'll see you all on the live stream at 5 for weekly outlook, GM.